so this person will just kind of act with us as the liaison because all of the board members are upperclassmen. So we just want people that will kind of help us get in contact with the younger kids and also like let their friends know that they meet in their classes to join. The applications are going to be due on Sunday, October 18th. And from there, we'll kind of decide how we want to go about everything. And then by the next meeting, it'll be announced who our representatives are. If you are a freshman or sophomore, feel free to scan that QR code and the link pops up. It's also posted on our Instagram and various social media pages. And if you miss it now, you can always message one of the board members and we'll send it to you. It's a short application. We just want to hear from you and kind of vet out the best people. And if you're a junior or a senior and you're looking to get involved, we'll have various positions open up, most likely at the end of the year, just as people start to graduate. But depending on the growth size of our club, we may add in a few more people. Josh, if you want to start talking about the member shoutouts.
Yeah, so this is something that Delilah and I have done in other organizations. It's kind of just a way for our club to interact with each other, whether that be if you get a new job, if you get an interview, if something happens, you get a good grade on in a sports class, anything you want to share, you could share it about a classmate. It's just a good chance so we can get FaceTime with each other and hear from everyone.
Cool. The next thing that we want to talk about is Witley. So in the past 2 weeks, I've kind of assumed the role of a brand ambassador and app ambassador for a new app that is launching on UF's campus. The basic way to describe it is that it's kind of the better GroupMe with Facebook features. So it's kind of centralizing all the alerts and notifications that you get. To continue on, I have more information about it. I've already created the GSMO group. So if you download the app, it's searchable. And just to kind of explain what everything means, there are subgroups, which are like the little people with a lock. So as you can see, there's one for freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and exec board. And that's kind of just narrowing down the chat of people that like maybe you'd be associated with. So our thoughts are for like the freshman and sophomore representatives to kind of be like the question answers of the freshman and sophomore groups. And that's kind of just to get to know your classmates as well. And you won't get notifications and you won't see subgroups that you aren't a part of. So don't worry about like getting information you don't need. There's also read-only channels where the board will post announcements. Some of the read-only channels we have going on are active applications and events and meeting debriefs and links. So that's where we'll post the meeting summaries and YouTube links of all the past meetings, active applications, just like the Google form link, and then events will be the Zoom links and passwords. And then the last thing are open channels, which are just open conversations that everyone can kind of join in on. With examples that we have set up right now are class scheduling tips, which is going to be helpful since especially for like the underclassmen that maybe don't know what to take and want to get like a firsthand view from students, and networking tips. So that's just like for anyone to kind of chat in on, and like instead of GroupMe where it's all just like one continuous flow of things, this kind of just like centralizes all the topics into separately. So like you'll be able to keep up with conversations. So to join, just scan this QR code. You will need to sign up with your UFL email. UF won't see that you're part of this app. It's just because the engineering of the app is only marked to like let UF students in. And then you can either come back and scan this code again, or you can just search up GSMO 2020 to 2021. And we'll also be posting this on our GroupMe. Witley's kind of gonna assume the position of GroupMe just because I think it's better for like getting out information in a more organized manner. So we'll still continue to post on GroupMe, but a big chunk of everything that's going on is going to be on Witley. So just like make that transition, make it easier on yourself, stay updated. You're not going to want to miss the conversations that happen on Witley, and it's definitely going to be advantageous to you in the future. Next, we're going to hear from Brian Avery, our advisor, about sport management department updates. So if you want to unmute yourself and give a little update on that.
Yeah, Delilah, I appreciate that. So most of us at this point should have heard or received an announcement, but if you had not, we've created a specific portal for students, alumni, industry friends, and faculty to come together and communicate, share events, provide mentoring and or different opportunities to interact or engage on this particular platform. And it is called Gator to Gator. So at some point, after this meeting, let's focus while we're in this particular meeting, you could jump on over to that page and go to gatortogator.com if you haven't already done so, and sign up. And I will admit you to that platform at this point so you can start to review it. And if you have any feedback, that would be excellent. But I'd also like to see some of the students start a conversation or discuss a topic of interest to them, or post an event that they might have going on within another organization outside of GSMO. But it is your platform within the sport management community. And I do want to see everyone actively using it. So thank you, Delia, for that opportunity to share that.
Great. And just to reinforce kind of the topics we were talking about last meeting, our goal is to just get you guys awesome opportunities. We have a great department, and we think that Gator to Gator is really going to help that. So I guess like the two new things to join are the Witley group to stay updated with GSMO, and then Gator to Gator to just strengthen your networking and connection opportunities. This is the last kind of house call announcement. So Josh, if you want to unmute yourself and talk about this.
Yeah, so I think that it's just a way that we can, as a club, kind of interact with each other without there being guest speakers. So I was thinking next week, we'll see interest. I'm going to send out in the group me as well to gauge interest if people are going to want to attend this. It's just kind of a way so we could talk as a collective sport management / people looking to get into the sports industry in general Zoom call, I guess, where we can all just kind of interact and maybe breakout rooms, kind of play it by ear, but just so that we can all interact more.
Because we aren't meeting in person this semester, it kind of takes away getting to know the people around you. So this is just like an in-between meetings opportunity to meet your other club members and share tips, share stories, and talk about the Gators. So finally, we're going to introduce tonight's panel. We have Anthony Favata, Gabriella Razzetti, and Kathryn Morgan. All three are UF alumni, and we have some questions laid out about their experience in events. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and bring the conversation back to you guys. The way we've kind of set out last meeting was that we went we asked one question, and then Anthony would answer, Gabriella would answer, and then Kathryn would answer. So I think we're going to stick with that theme. So Josh, if you want to ask the first question.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get started with, how did you get to where you are today, and what are some key past experiences that helped you obtain the position you are in?
Well, thank you guys. Appreciate the opportunity to participate in this. I was actually on the GSMO board when I was in school, and it wasn't nearly as organized as this, so kudos to you guys. But to start off my career, I really began at the Stephen C. O'Connell Center, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. But I began at the O'Connell Center my freshman year as a crew member, really just setting up the events that came through the building and the sporting activities. Kind of advanced and progressed my way throughout my tenure there. I was there all 4 years, held a variety of roles. I was the HR intern. I worked in the business department, the box office, but my primary responsibility was as a production lead within the technical department. So we did a lot of the production, the behind the scenes work for Gator Athletics, whether that was running the audio PAs and the video board content, as well as being the main liaisons between the venue and incoming concerts and tours. So did that for a while. I actually left my junior year for 2 semesters from UF and pursued an internship with the Miami Marlins in their ballpark operations department. It was fairly small at that time, so I had the opportunity in that role to see and do a lot, and it really opened my eyes to what this field is about. I absolutely loved it. I did have to go back to UF to finish a few more credits, and then I went back to the Marlins and did a second internship for about 5 months. So collectively was an intern for about 1.5 years with the Marlins. And then shortly after I graduated, they opened a position for me as the coordinator of game services. And what that really was overseeing game operations alongside the director at the time. And that was anything that fell on a game day, whether that was an ancillary event, it was the logistics of pregame and batting practice, all of our promotions. So I was in that capacity for about 3 years. And then an opportunity kind of arisen for me to kind of pivot towards the special event side of our department. So there's a little bit of a division where you have the game day side and you have the non-game day side. And this was an opportunity for me to get my feet wet in the non-game day side. So I took that opportunity, became the event manager. At the time, it was a very, very busy year in events at the venue. So I kind of jumped in full force and it was really sink or swim for me. But it was a great experience. It was a fantastic year. Was probably the most transformatory year of my career. But at the end of that, I was promoted to the director of event operations, which at the immediate time was really overseeing the non-game day operations of the venue. But given COVID and everything that's happened recently, it's kind of taken a step back to a more broad oversight of operations as a whole. To answer the second part of that question, what experiences, I would say probably the biggest experience that landed me or at least showed me what I wanted to do was Gator Growl. So I was the Gator Growl production lead. The very last year it was in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. And at that time, I'm not sure if many of you are familiar, but it was a very big production inside the football stadium where we actually removed bleachers and made a full concert production. So I was responsible for all of the logistics and working with the vendors and scheduling all the labor to make that event happen. And it was after that event that I truly recognized that this is what I wanted to do for a career.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey guys, Gabriella here. Thank you so much for having me. I am currently one of the event managers for USA Football. I was at UF from 2010 to 2014, and then stayed on to do my master's in business management and international business over at the business school until 2015. So while I was at UF, I was involved in quite a few different activities, but I really kind of got my break into the athletic department through one of my sorority sisters, who was one of the operations assistants for the basketball team. And she was graduating, so she knew that I was pretty interested in getting into the sports world. So she kind of lined me up to be her next person in line. What I did for the basketball team was kind of a lot of their office day-to-day stuff, helping with a little bit of the recruiting aspect, helping with their summer camps, basically whatever the program manager and the director of basketball ops needed. I was kind of their person to handle that for them throughout the day at the basketball office. On top of that, I also work with the communications department for all the basketball games. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Denver Parlor. He's wonderful. So I work directly with Denver to help with media row during the basketball game. So that was kind of my first introduction into the kind of event space. A lot of it was kind of on that operation side, and then a little bit in the communication side, obviously. Once I left UF, I landed an internship in the events department with USA Football, and then pretty similar to what Anthony said, they opened up a role for me a couple months later as an event coordinator, and ever since then I've kind of worked my way up to an event manager from there. So I would say that, I mean, being able to work with the basketball team, I was there for our Final Four run in 2014, which was amazing. That was my senior year, and just being able to just be a part of kind of that big of an operation was how I really knew that I wanted to work in the live event space. And then getting the opportunity with USA Football a little bit different working in the nonprofit event space. And, you know, I run a bunch of camps and clinics and things for youth and high schoolers, and it is pretty rewarding. So I loved my time at UF and wouldn't have changed it for anything.
Hey guys, really happy to be here and have the opportunity to speak to you all. My name is Kathryn. I am currently at the Barclays Center as an assistant manager of event services. I was at UF from 2014 to 2018. And I got my start similar to Anthony at the O'Connell Center. I started there my freshman year. I started as a crew member, you know, setting up chairs, rolling out cables, really doing a lot of, you know, the grunt work that really goes into doing an event. And there I saw what other people were doing. You know, they were making their way up in their various departments. And I was like, you know, I really want to do that. That looks like a really good time. I really like the energy that the sports brought. I really liked the energy that concerts brought. So I made my way up in the technical division, ended up being a production lead, assistant show one there. I really can't sing the O'Connell Center's praises enough for the opportunities that they provided a lot of students, and they continue to provide to a lot of students. So a lot of AV, lighting, staging, got to see all of those production aspects while I was there. And then my final semester, I got an internship at Madison Square Garden in their arena operations department. And there I learned a lot of their guest services and their security, which was a bit of a deviation from what I was used to. You know, production and security and guest services, they're a bit different. And it really gave me a fully formed view of arenas. And I realized, you know, this is where I want to be. I really like arenas. I like the fan base and the energy that they bring. After my time there, I had gotten to know a director of special events there, and she had transitioned to an experiential events agency. And I was there, it was called Satisfy. I was there for about a year, but I knew that wasn't necessarily where I wanted to be, but I did take all of the experiences that I had there and to kind of like, you know, cater my skills to a wider variety of things, different events, like did a lot of events for Nike and built a lot of Instagrammable moments. Wasn't necessarily where I wanted to be, but really took the time to learn it. And then as I was at the job, I kept my eye out for other positions because I knew that arena positions don't just crop up out of anywhere. And I finally saw an opportunity at Barclays Center. They were opening up more of an entry-level position, assistant event manager, and that's where I stepped in. Essentially, it's a lot of production, similar to what I was doing over at the O'Connell Center, quite a bit more intensive, considering it's a lot of professional sports, a lot of bigger concerts, things of that nature. And essentially what I do there, or pre-COVID, what our main, my main job function was there is essentially, you know, the Nets come in, the Liberty come in, or a concert, maybe it's the Islanders even, and we kind of liaise with the building and whoever the client is at the time to make sure that all of their needs are met. And, you know, we also work with a lot of unions there as well. So yeah, I definitely echo Anthony in saying, you know, the O'Connell Center really was a crucial part in me learning about what I do now and kind of propelling me to know that that's exactly what I wanted to be doing.
Awesome. Thank you guys for those answers. I'm going to be asking the next question. And
I just wanted to reiterate that if anyone here today has any questions for the panelists, feel free to direct message either Delilah or I, and we're going to hopefully have some time at the end to ask those questions.
Awesome. Yeah. And if you are interested in getting involved at the O'Connell Center, Josh works there. So he's a good resource to reach out to. So the next question is, what is your job like on a routine basis, and how has that changed with coronavirus?
Oh, routine. That's every event operator's least favorite word. There really isn't one, and I won't take that cop out of an answer, but I'll kind of give you what a non-event day and a kind of an event day routine kind of sort of is. So as far as a non-event day, it's a lot of looking forward and looking back. The looking forward part is really looking weeks and months ahead about what events are on the docket and what needs to be done at that exact moment leading up to the event. And, you know, coordinating an event, as I mentioned, it doesn't take a week. It doesn't take, sometimes we're coordinating 6 months out. And that's getting layouts and permits ready and scheduling staff and securing labor and vendors and rentals and a lot of those things. So the quiet time, for lack of a better phrase, when an event is not happening is doing a lot of that. As far as the looking back, you know, one of the main responsibilities that I have is putting together a P&L for all of our events. And that's really cost allocating and gathering all of our expenses for an event. And putting it together in a pro forma to really understand if the event was, one, successful financially, and two, if we want to pursue something similar in the future. So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of admin work on a non-event day. And then as far as an event day, every event day starts with a cup of coffee and an energy drink. But the main responsibility on a game day or on an event day is, you know, we're the first ones in the building. So we get there at the crack of dawn, and we're there to really oversee and make sure load-in goes well. We connect with the client once they're on site to make sure everything's status quo and that the run of show hasn't changed and nothing has deviated from the initial plan. That's all the way leading up to doors. Just prior to doors, we're really finalizing the small details, making sure signage is in place, making sure everything's safe and secure and doors are unlocked, escalators are on, elevators are functioning, all the operational stuff that you can imagine that you probably don't pay attention to when you go to an event. About a half hour prior to doors, you're briefing staff, you're making sure everybody has all the information they need to do their job that day, all of the part-time event staff, and it's making sure they get on post in a timely manner so you can open doors. Once doors open, it's any man's game. It's putting out fires, it's running around, it's doing crowd control, making sure ingress goes well, you know, walking the concourse and just making sure that everything's going according to plan and that there are no issues. And then once the event ends, it's the reverse of load-in. You take everything down, and normally it comes down faster than it goes up. But we're really there to make sure that all goes smooth and that the event gets out of the building in a timely manner. Because a lot of the time there's a quick turnaround between events, and any hiccup in that could really, really delay the schedule.
And how has the event space with the Marlins kind of changed with coronavirus?
Sorry, I missed that part. Yes, so drastically. And I'll give you a case scenario just because it was recent, but we just had our first in-person event back at the ballpark since this all began. We hosted a couple watch parties when we made it to the playoffs, which was the first time in 17 years. Got to plug that in there. But that was our first in-person event, and it added an entirely new level of complexity to the way we've done things in the past. And there's things that we have never had to be mindful about that we now had to be mindful. We had to establish our mask policy and what that looked like. Were we going to allow surgical masks or cloth masks, and what that looked like? And if we did find a guest that didn't have the correct mask, where did we have them positioned to give them out prior to them coming in the building? We did a timed entry, which we've never done before. So anybody that reserved their tickets had to choose between, 30-minute entry window or an hour entry window, which we had, again, never done before. And then there was a whole new questionnaire that guests had to fill out before they even received their ticket barcode. So it was dealing on the back end with MLB and a lot of behind the scenes stuff to make sure that functioned properly, because it was the first time we did it. And I can go on, but it's little things like that. And I say little, but they all add up. It's things that you were never mindful about when you were coordinating an event that we now had to be mindful of.
Thanks, Anthony. So for me, like he kind of said, there's really no routine basis. I will say that my events year to year don't necessarily change, which actually is makes it really nice, because you can really learn from what you did in the past year and go forward and improve. So as one of the event managers. I am responsible for our national team department. And I know it sounds kind of crazy to think that USA football has a national team. I know you think of like USA soccer or basketball or the ones that are in the Olympics, but that's our ultimate goal as an organization, is to get some form of football in the Olympics. And so right now, a lot of our priorities are on that youth and high school development as far as flag goes and tackle goes. So I am responsible for all the events that fall under the U.S. national team umbrella on the tackle side. We host regional events, a national summer camp, and then what we call our international bowl that has participants from other countries that come in, and we play at AT&T Stadium down in Dallas, and it's really great. But thankfully, since a lot of our events are kind of the same year to year, we might add one or two that are different. I am able to kind of establish a little bit more of a routine of what that year looks like and how I break down my year to plan a little bit more. So a lot of it is spending half the year planning and half the year on execution. I run from January until about July with a lot of events. And then from August until December, we're really in the meat of our planning. And a lot of the planning is scheduling. I create all of our calendars. I manage all of our asset inventory. So all of our signage, all of our apparel, all of our pallets that we ship back and forth. If you don't know how to wrap a pallet, go try to find somewhere where you can learn how to do that too. I hire all of our operations staff, athletic trainers, work with our teams for coaches, get all the hotel blocks. I'm our travel manager as well. And then really work with our marketing and sales teams and our sponsorship teams to make sure that all the vendors really know what's going on and all the athletes kind of know what's going on too. And then when it comes to the execution part, I mean, like Anthony said, every single day it's completely different, but we travel on site and we're the ones physically doing the work. We're the first ones in the building for setup and tear down, where I'm completely manage registration along with our service and experience team that helps check in all the athletes. I handle all the catering, all the meeting planning, anything from conference. I'm the one making all the credentials. I'm the one making all of the, the meal schedules, the times that the athletic trainers are open in our hotel room. So working on all the hotel blocks so that all the athletes have somewhere to stay. It's really, it's a ton of just moving around, and it's a lot of just behind the scenes grunt work that doesn't necessarily get noticed. When our kids are out there and they're playing out on the field, they're interacting with all the coaches, they're interacting with our staff, and then I'm the one running around, making sure that we're not losing any of our footballs and that we're not, if our signage gets broken in half because a kid tackled into it, that I'm the one quickly going to break it down and resetting it up again. So they're really, like you said, there's really no routine, but it is kind of fun to deal with those day-to-day things where, you plan for one thing and then something else happens and you just got to adjust and work through all of those. As far as what's changed with COVID, everything has changed for us as well. I mean, I won't sugarcoat it. We had some furloughs and some layoffs, which I'm happy to talk about too, if we have time at the end. But right now we're just really focusing on some virtual clinics that we're putting on with some NFL partners. Some of the teams that you might have seen have hosted a couple, talks about youth football and things that we can do in that space. We've been working on a ton of our standard operating procedures. So really sitting down and figuring out, what does an event look like from start to finish, and putting that down on paper and really laying out all that process. Because, if someone were to ever leave and you have to hand it over to the next person, you always want to have those in place, and really just inventory and kind of planning for when we can get back out there to have our first event. We have not done anything in person yet. So it's been a tough spring.
Yeah, and in terms of routine for us as well, there is no routine. Similar to what Anthony said, we both work at venues, so it's a lot of looking ahead. If your event is not that day, then you are working on your next event. I work with a group of 4 other people in my department, and we go through and we are each assigned an event by our VP of events. I am the Liberty event manager. Some people are there. We've got a Nets event manager, an Islanders event manager. I also do a lot of the concerts in the building as well, and a lot of the VIP experiences that come along with that. So if it's a concert day, coming in, unloading a lot of trucks and hitting the ground running, and it's a 4 a.m. start and like sometimes a 3 a.m. finish kind of deal. And when we are anticipating an event, it's a lot of liaising with the client, knowing exactly, what do they need from our ops department, our AV department, cleaning. Levy is our in-house caterer, things like that, letting them know what we have available to them, and preparing our building for everything that they need, depending on what the event is. So not to get too verbose, but yes, not often a routine. And how has it changed with coronavirus? Yeah, completely changed. We were completely stopped in our tracks at tip off for an A10 event back in March. New York was really hit hard in the beginning, and we're very, very shut down. We were supposed to host the Video Music Awards back in August, but they weren't prepared for that. We weren't really prepared for that, and in the end, it was kind of called off. And kind of trying to prepare, what is the next steps? Kind of what do our events look like in the future? Just kind of brainstorming with the building, with our general management, and yeah, that's kind of what we were doing in COVID. We're also a polling location, which has been an interesting challenge. But things are still happening. We're very lucky to still have our jobs. I think from what I've been told, we're one of the only arenas in the United States that have had no furloughs or layoffs or anything like that, pay cuts due to COVID, which is just a testament to our management. It's not the same for everybody. So yeah, COVID has changed a lot. It's a completely different environment.
Yeah, so just to echo, it is definitely a crazy time, and as with everything that I've been reading just in articles, and you see a new team making different organizational changes every day. It is a crazy time to be in the sports industry, it sounds like. But from what I'm hearing from different people is that we will rebound, and internships are coming back, and there's going to be new positions, new cleaning positions, new general. It's just, the industry is going to change, especially the events industry, just because arenas and venues and different organizations are adapting, and now that they have to, and they're going to need those people to fill in. So I think the opportunities are there. I think it's just going to be in different places. Is what I've been hearing. So we'll see. Next question. What are some hard and soft skills to develop in hopes of obtaining a role in events?
So I'll give you two of my go-tos. The first one being you have to be an above average communicator in the events space. You are communicating with so many different people. You are the hub of information for that event. You need to know everything going on, and you are the disseminator of that information. So any hiccup along the communication chain from the event manager or event director it can be detrimental to the event. And to give you a couple examples of things that have happened to me in the past. One time we were hosting a pretty major event, and we changed the layout around a little bit, and I didn't communicate back to our jurisdiction for fire rescue that we made these changes, and the permit was actually already per the old layout. So when fire rescue got on site and they were walking around with the previous layout, and they noticed the changes, they actually made me hold doors for about an hour and revert back to the old layout. So that was a fault of mine, and ever since that time I've made it a point to go above and beyond when it comes to communicating. And that's not only internally with the organization, that's externally too, with your partners. Many venues you go to have a third-party security company. They have a third-party concessionaire, which ours is Levy as well, where we even have a third-party housekeeping department. So a lot of those groups are not in the internal communication. So you have to make sure you extend that beyond your internal channels. The second one I would say is being able to think on your feet. This is something that is not really a skill you can practice without being in the environment and practicing it in real time. But being able to creatively come up with solutions and use your resources to solve those issues as they come about. You'll hear it from every event manager, but you can think about every contingency you could possibly imagine. There's always going to be 5 you didn't think of, and all 5 are going to happen. That's just the way the world works. And you have to be able to, at that moment, confidently make a decision, because you will be the one that is looked at to make that call. And you have to do it, and you have to stick to your gut. So being able to actively think on your feet, I would say, is probably another really important skill. But I'll leave you with those two.
I was going to say almost the exact same thing as Anthony. I think, especially when, for my own team, and then when we go to hire interns, one of the first things that we look at is the ability to problem solve and adaptability. Having that strength is, like he said, it is pretty hard to learn until you've kind of been thrown into that fire. But somebody who, think about the way that you handle issues, even just in your personal life. Are you able to kind of take it, digest it, and figure out a solution right away and adapt to those problems? That's something that's super important for us. Another thing I would say, overall organization. Think about how you organize your own personal habits and your routine. I am the world's biggest note taker. When I make our schedules and our staff guides for any of these events that we go to, it is literally planned down to the minute. I'm sure Anthony and Kathryn, they have run shows that are literally planned down to the second. And you can see that having that organization, knowing exactly what's coming up right after, you check this thing off your list, and then exactly what's coming up right afterwards. Those are some things that you can already start kind of working on in your day-to-day life, if you don't feel like you do a good job, even just with schoolwork and stuff like that, working on those organization skills, because they will be extremely important. One hard skill that I didn't necessarily think was going to be as big of a thing that I do on a day-to-day basis, and Anthony kind of talked about it a little bit before, was budgeting and basic financial accounting. I swear, if I would have gone back to school, I would have probably minored in accounting, or honestly gotten a second degree in accounting. I spend so much time on our budgets, and I have to dissect every single thing that we purchase and put it there to make sure that we maintain that profit margin that we're looking for through everything. I run all of the budgets for all of our events, so it's a couple $1 million in expenses. And I mean, even when you think that you're going out to buy some pens for our coaches, like I have to keep track of that stuff too. So it's crazy if you don't know how to do that, or if you have the ability to kind of take another course, or even just on the side, just look up some resources of how to budget and how to do basic financial accounting. That is like one thing that we do 24/7. So I would say that on the hard skill side, that's something that you can definitely learn. Maintaining like an energy and just proactive about everything that you do while you're working on events. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. There's going to be things that pop up that are, you have to just pivot on the fly. So being able to work on those skills is really important.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Gabriella and Anthony have said. One thing that I would say is having a positive attitude is definitely crucial to work in events. You're going to be working some very, very long hours. Some people are not going to be as friendly as you would like. Being yelled at by a tour manager at 11 p.m. when you've been there since 4 a.m. Because you needed to shut it down for sound ordinance reasons. There are things like that happen, and you have to take it in strides. You have to be able to think on your, keep a positive attitude in terms of your adaptability. Like they mentioned, problems occur, and you have to be able to kind of, not get in your feelings about it. You just have to, get it done in the moment, and, try to be as positive as possible, because it doesn't help when you're negative. And then another thing is, be open to learning from the people around you. There are a lot of departments that I work alongside with in my building specifically. And being open to, hearing what they have to say in terms of problems or things that they did or didn't like will only make you better. It will make your job easier too, especially when you do have that open communication. It does go back to communication. When you do have that open communication with them, because they're more willing to help you, and it really only helps. So I would say, being open to learning from people who maybe you wouldn't really think you need to learn from, it can only help you, and a positive attitude are two very important things.
Awesome. Those are great answers. To kind of pivot the conversation, the next question is, or not really question, but the next topic is, will you guys kind of talk about the importance of networking and the importance of making connections in the sports industry, especially in college?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's probably a cliche to this point, and I'm sure everybody's heard it a million times from advisors and their peers. But yeah, it's more so than probably any other industry. Sports is about who knows you, and that's what it comes down to. And a huge resource that I plug all the time is LinkedIn, and that's actually how I got my start. I found a connection on LinkedIn. I reached out for a very informal. Sorry about that. My back. There we go. I reached out for a very informal interview, asked the gentleman who was the director of operations at the time with the Marlins a few questions. That's ultimately how I landed my internship. And I have people reach out all the time, and I'm always willing to accept those conversations because they're huge, and people will remember you, and go above and beyond, do things that others aren't willing to do. And in that same token about reaching out over LinkedIn, I hand wrote that gentleman a letter a few months later. And that's when he called me back and said, no one's ever handwritten me a letter. Can I interview you? So do things like that, reach out, and shadow. That's another big one that I try to tell people to do a lot. You don't need to necessarily be employed or be volunteering, but reach out and ask if you can shadow people. I actually do that to this day. I can't tell you a ballpark I've been to in the past couple of years that I don't reach out to my peer before I get there and ask if I can just walk around and see how they do things for a little bit before I enjoy the game. And that's something you guys can do as well. And look, some people aren't going to be able to, whether that's an HR reason or they have responsibilities that don't allow for that. But you will get a few that will be willing to just, you can just follow around on a game day or prior to a game day and really see how things operate. And at the end of the day, that's always going to circle back. They're going to appreciate that you took the time and willingness to want to see how they do things. And if a position opens up, you will be on the top of their mind. So networking is absolutely huge. And, to my earlier point that I still do it today, it doesn't stop once you're in the industry. I go to conferences all the time, and my main goal going to these conferences is to walk out with as many business cards as I can. You just got to continue to build your network, and that's something that doesn't stop when you leave college.
I agree with everything that Anthony said. Look, I kind of talked about it a little bit before, but when I was working with the basketball team at UF, I only got that job because I had reached out to some of my sorority sisters that had roles in different events and different programs that they were doing that I was interested in. And I know that it's hard to hear the right place at the right time situation, but at the same time, there's going to be the right place at the right time. But once you get there, that doesn't mean that you can stop working. I worked my tail off multiple times, and that's why they kept asking me back. That those are pretty easy positions to fill because of the demand of how many people want to do them. But I was there for every single basketball game. I had to skip a wedding over the summer because I was running the summer camps. Once you're there and you get the opportunity, do everything that you can to stay in that position. When I was at USA Football, when I was an intern, I was an intern from about January to March before they decided that they wanted to hire me full time. And it was because I did everything that I could to make sure that they noticed the hard work that I was doing. And it wasn't that I was, I wasn't the only intern that was there. They could have hired other people, and they chose to stick with me because I did what I could to make sure that they noticed. I put all of my hard work into place to make sure that they noticed me and that I knew that I was the right fit for that job. So once you do get that opportunity, just make sure that you are continuing to put that work in and not get complacent of what you're trying to accomplish too. I mean, agree with Anthony that now online communication has just gotten, it's incredible what you can do now. Follow people on Twitter, message them. If you see someone that's doing something cool, reach out to them. It doesn't have to be something so formal. You can, whenever someone asks me to kind of jump in on a conversation, I'm always happy to do that for them. But once you hear that person's name in your head, like Anthony said, it's it's much easier for me when we're selecting interns if it's somebody that has reached out to me or somebody that has kind of put that initial effort in to begin with.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with what they've said as well. I will not stress enough the importance of just trying to reach out for informal interviews when there's a place that you would like to work. I got my internship at Madison Square Garden because I did a lot of research and I found out who was the HR person in charge of doing those. And I said, hey, can I come and chat with you? And I just sold the heck out of myself. And she was, my biggest advocate in making sure that I actually got an internship there, which really set off my career in New York. I also I was an intern for venue management school, which I didn't really know too much about at the time. And I met so many people there. It was just casual conversations. I wasn't there, looking for anything in particular, but just to get to know people and learn about what they do. People love to talk about themselves. I'm sure you've heard it. I know that the three of us, I'm sure, have plenty of event craziness stories that we would love to share with anybody who would like to listen. I would also say friends in your classes, it's so easy to just sit and not make any friends, but so many of my best friends I've made in class, and, they are still great resources to this day. I actually live with a friend that I made in class, and she works at the garden. But yes, they will be your biggest advocates as well. So yeah, very important. I actually even got a call from someone the other day who works with the Cowboys, who I met at venue management school 2 years ago. And he was like, hey, are you looking for a job? And it's like, I'm not at the moment, but it's nice that people can still think of you and reach out to you just from those like split connections that you make, along the way.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that the industry gets that connected. Like Anthony was saying, that you could just like come to a different ballpark and try to hit up your counterpart, or like Kathryn was saying with like different teams calling up, and it shows it. That's what everyone says, that the industry does get small, but you got to get in and you can't get complacent. Like Gabriella was saying, like it just like it's so important to get in, and it's so important to make a good reputation and a good name for yourself, because people will remember you, which is definitely good advice for sure. And then just to finally wrap it up before we open up the floor for questions, what's something you wish you knew out of college? And do you have any recommendations, like say like a podcast, things to read, just in general to stay in the know and up to date?
So yeah, I'll give you one of the biggest pieces that I wish I wouldn't necessarily knew, but wish I would have spent more time recognizing, and that it's okay to fail. When I stepped into my internship, I was so worried about being a perfect intern and turning in nothing but A+ work. And you really start to lose sight when you do that of the bigger picture. You don't want to alienate yourself. It's a team effort. And sometimes the details can be pushed to the side a little bit. to focus on the greater picture, and that's doing things efficiently and effectively. And some of the biggest, eye-opening experiences that I've had were missteps that I've taken doing events. I've made plenty of incorrect decisions, more so than I can count, and I still do them today. But I'll tell you what I won't do, and that's replicate those. And those have been the biggest learning experiences and things that I remember coordinating every event. And even to this day, after every event, I host a debriefing meeting. Or our department hosts a debriefing meeting, and we pull in everybody that had a hand in the event, and we talk about our failures, and we talk about our missteps and what we can improve on the next time around. So it's okay to fall on your face, especially in the event industry, and as long as you don't continue to make those same mistakes. And then as far as recommendations, Kathryn alluded to it with venue management school, but one thing I wish I would have gotten involved in way earlier than I did was IAVM, which is the International Association of Venue Managers. And if you're interested in ever working in any type of public forum and any type of venue, it is an agency that you should absolutely invest in. I think they have like a student membership I think it's like $70, something very minimal in the grand scheme of things, but it's a great resource. They actually host a mentor-mentee connection platform where they pair you up with somebody that works and is well established in one of the subsets of the venue management area that you want to work. I'm actually a mentor at this moment for somebody, and it's a great program, and we talk almost weekly now. So it's a great resource. They actually have their Venue Connect conference coming up at the end of this month. It's only $50 to join. It's virtual, which is great. Normally it's at a different state every year, so it's kind of tough to get to and expensive, but for $50 you can participate virtually for this, multi-day conference where you're hearing from a lot of industry experts. So definitely look into IAVM, pay the dues. You won't regret it.
I would say something I wish I knew coming out of college. I was very focused on the operations side of events. I think that's something that people always think is like the cool, the cool side, that you're the one, actually doing the executing of the event. But every single thing that I have done has had a sales, a marketing, and a sponsorship perspective. All of it is intertwined. And while it is really, really fun to work on that execution side of it, really try to if you can, try to take a class in some of that sales stuff and some of the sponsorship, if that's available to you, and figure out that marketing tie-in. That's something that I didn't really understand, along with the financial side, with the budgeting that I realized too, is, anyone can go, set up a bunch of signage and bring equipment out to a football field. That's not something that I'm unique in that skill, but figuring out how all that works together, how all those different departments collaborate to kind of create that final product at the very end. That's something that I just didn't really wrap my head around until I got into the industry. So really try to focus on some of that sales and marketing if you can. Anything that I recommend, reading or watching, I love Adam Grant. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of him. Follow him on LinkedIn. I wouldn't call him like a motivational speaker, but he really talks about organizational culture, and he's extremely insightful. He also has a podcast, so I recommend finding him and just making sure that you're go in and subscribe to jobs on Teamwork, on Indeed, on NCAA Marketplace. Go find all these different areas where you can get email alerts, and that's how I find out about what kind of jobs are opening up in the industry as a whole. I still, even with a job, I still look at a lot of that stuff just to know, what the trends are and what things are going to. So if you're not currently looking at any of that stuff, I recommend looking at it.
So just a couple things that I wish I knew coming out of college. I ended up in a position that I didn't necessarily, it wasn't really my end goal. It's not really where I wanted to be coming out of college. I was a project manager for experiential events, which is, generally similar, but not really what I wanted. And I knew that. And I was very discouraged initially, but I realized that there are so many skills that I could learn there that I could, transfer to my next job and where I actually wanted to be. So I would just say, you're not gonna, it's all about timing. You might not get exactly what you like, the job that you want coming out of college. But wherever you do end up, take from that as much as you possibly can. That's something that's really helped me. And it ended up, really, I was able to leverage my skills at a job that I didn't necessarily want to be to get to where I wanted to be now. So just, make sure you're not discouraged, be open to new opportunities. It's just, everything has something to teach you. Things that I'm reading, watching, and listening to. Honestly, I have not been too keyed into the industry. Recently, my organization has been doing a lot of, talks regarding the industry itself, and things like that. So it's been a lot of industry or a lot of company focused things that I've been watching. But toward the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of like webcasts and things like that, kind of saying, oh, this is what it's going to look like. And now people have kind of, they're taking a backseat and waiting for things to unfold in terms of like the future of the industry. So that's what I've got to say about that.
Awesome. Thank you guys for running through the questions. Quickly, we did get one question from the audience. Can you just quickly mention if Remy C asked, are you guys doing spring internships?
So unfortunately, at this exact moment, our internship program was disbanded. It was unfortunately one of the first things that went when COVID kind of struck our industry. So I would say from the Marlins, at this exact moment, there are no opportunities that exist, but that is not to say that won't be revisited in the next couple months, and that's something will come to fruition at the beginning of next year. But I would say at this immediate moment, we are not.
Exact same issue for us. As of right now, we don't have any internships starting in January. We're going to revisit that as the spring and summer kind of roll out. As of right now, we're still trying to get our first in-person event kind of up and running. So we are not having any interns right now, but we do always have in a typical year, spring, summer, and fall interns. So keep an eye out for anything at USA Football. And if anything comes up that you're interested in, just feel free to shoot me a message.
Yeah, we were going to start an internship program this summer, and it did not end up happening for obvious reasons. Not to be discouraging, but the industry is going to be ramping up. Everybody wants to get out and be going to these events. There are going to be opportunities. We just all have to be a bit patient. I'm ready to get back at it. I'm sure these guys are also ready to get back at it. And I know you guys are probably very, excited and anxious to start, your careers, but it's going to come back. That's what I'm hearing. That's what everybody really wants. So, don't be discouraged by that. And there are opportunities out there, learning opportunities, not necessarily in the field. So, as I said, take everything as a learning opportunity that you can get.
And I just had a quick plug. I took the liberty of, like Kathryn was saying, like you can learn on platforms like LinkedIn Learning. UF has a free partnership with LinkedIn Learning. So take advantage of it while you're a student. Like now is a perfect time to like be learning.
Great. So again, thank you so much to our guest speakers. We're going to just quickly wrap up the meeting. I'm going to screen share again. Our upcoming meetings, the next one is on October 26th. That's a Monday. We don't have the topic set up yet, but as soon as we get our guests nailed down, we'll let you guys know, and be on the lookout for a potential semi-formal meeting next week just to get to know your peers. A special shout out quickly. The Association for Women in Sport Media is having their meeting next week with Scooter Magruder. Follow them on Instagram, and there's also other social channels that you can plug into and tap into, but just want to give you guys as many opportunities as possible. Again, stay informed, stay relevant. If you guys want to take a quick picture of this page, these are just some great outlets that you can kind of tap into to get sports news. Again, Sports Business Journal is definitely the most integrative and up-to-date. And if it's too expensive, you can always share the cost with someone. Me and Josh share one. But again, just staying relevant and staying updated with everything that's happening. In case you missed the sign-in at the beginning of the meeting, here's that QR code again. And follow us on social media. And again, join our new page, our new Witley page. Thank you guys so much for being great guest speakers. We really appreciate it. And to everyone else, make sure you reach out on LinkedIn and thank them for their time. And that could be a great start and basis of a potential connection that you have in the industry. So again, thank you all so much for coming and have a great night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.